Hey, it's my first episode. Cue the intro scene. Hey everyone, it's Epi, the Mustang Master, and in today's video, I'm not going to be doing any wrenching. Sorry, but I do want to show off my '67 Mustang to you guys, all the mods I've done to it over the years, and the future mods that's going to be featured on this channel. I have a list of it. Kind of go over some of the stuff that I do plan on doing, and along the videos, you'll see there's a little bit more to what I'm going to talk about today, but for the most part, you'll get an idea of what I have planned, and hopefully you guys can learn something off of it. But before I get into that, I do want to introduce myself to you guys, who I am, my automotive history, my background, and kind of show you how I got here and how you do, because I do this for a living. This is my hobby. Mustangs are my hobby. So, and my career. It's not just my hobby, but it's also my career. So let's get to it. So, who am I? I am Epi. That's short for Epifanio, and I'm an automotive technician with close to 25 years of experience. And I really got my start way before then. It was actually, just as a kid working on Hot Wheels cars and little toy cars or whatever, taking them apart and repainting the bodies and changing the wheels on them. Kind of start from there. And my dad was always the kind of guy that he would learn on his own. Kind of he was 100% DIY guy and pick up a wrench and just started working on the family cars. He didn't want to pay anybody to work on them, so he worked on them himself. And me as a kid, I'd be alongside of him every single time. I got plenty of stories on that. And I learned by trial and error. Soon afterwards, I started working on my neighbor's cars and just doing simple stuff like brake jobs and tune ups. And not that I was that great at it, but you kind of learn from there. And I thank my neighbors so much for giving me that opportunity to kind of learn. And I was just a little gearhead. I couldn't help it. But eventually, after high school, I went to a well-known technical institute and got my degree in automotive technology. And right after that, I started working at a general repair shop out in Chicago, and I kind of got my start there, just wrenching on cars. So I guess a turning point for me in my life was when I joined the Chicagoland Mustang Club. It's probably one of the biggest Mustang clubs in the area, and I kind of dove deep into the Mustang world right after that. I met a bunch of great people, and there's still a lot of people that I know to this day. This is going back almost 20 years, and a lot of my friends are from that club. And right after joining that club, I got the Mustang itch. So I bought a '86 GT convertible that I stripped down and redid completely down to a shell. Just stripped it down. And this is back when Fox bodies weren't like as hot as they are now. I redid that whole car and I learned a ton off of that. Even though I was already well versed in Mustangs and Fox bodies and stuff, I did learn a ton building that car, and that's something that I every single day I try to learn something new. One of the most important persons I've ever met in my entire life was in this club, and it was Mike Post. Mike Post is, I gotta say, one of my closest friends and great guy, and he's a well-known Mustang tuner in the area, and he gave me my start in the performance world. I gotta really thank him for that because I knew Mustangs, and I knew I was well versed, and I had attention to detail and quality. Now, it wasn't perfect, but I learned a ton joining with Mike, and it started off as a part-time deal at first. I was working at the time. I was working for a Subaru dealership. That's another story, actually. Yes, it's Mustang related, but that's another story. I was working at a Subaru dealership at the time, and I'd go over there on the evenings, just doing some basic installs like superchargers and headers and just some bolt-on stuff, nothing crazy. And finally, it got to the point where we were so busy that Mike was like, "Why don't you leave your full-time job, come work for me?" I was like, my eyes just lit up. I was just like, "Man, here's an opportunity to finally do something." And, you know, even at first, I look back, I had some pretty decent experience by then, but working on Mustangs for a living every single day of your life, you learn a ton. And I've learned so much. I learned so much off of Mike too, and that's the big thing. I gotta really thank Mike for all the knowledge he's given me over the years, and kind of whipped me into shape as well. I had, it's my issues. I'm not perfect. I'll admit that, but he's really helped me be the person that I am today, and I gotta thank him truly for that. But the knowledge that I have now is what I want to do with this channel. Is I want to share that with the world, and I want to share it with you guys and all the stuff that I want to do. I have some plans for this car I'm going to talk about in a minute. So I'm sure you're wondering about my name, Mazda. Why Mazda? Why with an A? Well, it actually goes back to the year 2000. So right out of high school, I had a Ford LTD, and that car was my first real project car. That car, by the time I got done with it, it was a completely different car than what it was. And actually, it's funny because that car was featured in a couple different movies. One I'm not sure what happened to, but the other one I actually it was I got a clip of it. I might be able to post, but anyway, that car was my first real project car. But back then, I had there was a forum called Blue Oval News, and then eventually CrownVic.net. And back then, the forums you could only use like 7 or 8 characters, something like that. So I couldn't fit master, so I put Masta, and that's that story. So this is a nod to my old early days of my online presence. All right, so you're bored to death. Let's talk about my Mustang instead. Let's look underneath the hood. So this right here is a 302 out of a 2000 Ford Explorer. And I went with this because I needed a cheap motor at the time. So when I first bought the car, I originally had a 289 in it, and it was okay. It ran fine. But then 2 months later, the motor locked up, and I couldn't figure out. It baffled me why it just suddenly locked up, and then I realized somebody had swapped in the motor and didn't use the right motor mounts, and the engine sat too far forward, and it actually the original sway bar rubbed right through the oil pan. So fixed all that. So this motor has 4-bar GT40 P heads, and if you're not familiar with the P heads, these are pretty decent cast iron head. I mean, nothing to write home about, but it's better than the E7 heads that came on the old Fox body Mustangs. I upgraded the valve springs on this thing and obviously took the fuel injection off, put a Holley 4-barrel plus a Autobrock Performer RPM intake, and a trick full stage 1 cam, which is why you heard this thing cam so hard. And speaking of camming hard, this thing has hooker long tubes. I do plan on keeping those in the future. Well, we'll see about keeping those because I don't like how low these things hang on the motor. Front accessory drive, it's a 3G alternator on a Fox body water pump and accessory drive. And you notice there's no power steering. I'll explain why in a second. Ignition system, this is an 85 Mustang GT distributor. The 85 Mustang GT was carbureted, but it still had the DuraSpark distributor. And I have it running directly with this adapter directly to the MSD box. So the MSD is doing 100% of the control of it. It's mechanically advanced and vacuum advanced, so pretty simple, but it's all going away for fuel injection. Let's talk about the front suspension. So in the front, I have Scott Drake lowering springs, 1 inch, I believe, with Coney SRT shocks and a 1 1/4 inch front sway bar. On top of that, brand new control arms, Global West strut rod bushings. To top it off, I did the Shelby mod. If you're not familiar with the Shelby earning drop, those are the control arm bolts, and there's actually upper bolts, upper holes right there. So what you do is you actually lower the pivot points of the upper control arms, and that changes the suspension geometry, and it makes it handle way better. It is a night and day difference the way it handles compared to the stock control arm setup. Now for the rear suspension, I have just 4.5 mid-eye leafs that are with 1 inch lowering blocks and KYB monotube shocks. It handles the back end definitely does not ride as good as the front end. So maybe that's something we'll address in the future. But for now, it rides pretty decent compared to what it was when I first got the car. Now the interior is one of the latest projects I completed, and it's pretty much got everything brand new. New door panels, the front seats I upholstered myself. Carpet's fairly new. It was actually replaced one a few years ago. I redid all the gauges and it got LED lights. The center is actually a tack instead of the factory clock. These buttons right here are actually just kind of a nod to the warning lights on the 68s, but these are they're different functions. One's a line lock. The other one is supposed to be trunk release, and then the last one is going to be overdrive for the future transmission. The back seat is 100% original. I just reconditioned the vinyl, and believe it or not, the best stuff to use is actually hand lotion. I learned that from YouTube, by the way. Headliner I replaced a couple years ago with my friend Katie. She was a big help in getting this thing straightened out and everything. These are a pain in the butt to do. I do not recommend this for somebody who's not well experienced in the upholstery, and you do have to pull the front and rear glass to do it. That's the only way to properly do these headliners. Even this one is not 100% perfect. You can see a wrinkle back in the lower rear quarter, but I'm living with it because it's my car. So one of the coolest mods I've ever done was put electric power steering on this. Car's off. I can turn it by hand, no problem. Shut it off for a second so you can see. That's the radio. Now, can't turn it. How do you get power steering electrically? Pretty simple. So down there is a power steering unit out of a Saturn Vue mid 2000s. I think mine came out of a 2006. And what you do is you adapt that onto your steering column. I'll show you more pictures in the future. Or maybe I'll do a whole video on that. But this setup, I think I had less than 300 bucks into by the time I was all said and done. And it works great. I mean, I'm very happy with it. The other thing that comes with it is it's hard to see, but it's down here. I have a little variables control knob that allows you to dial in the amount of steering feel. I'll talk more about that in the future, but I really like the setup because you can dial it in, and it's got really good road feel, but you are limited to the factory gearbox. It's pretty sloppy, but it's 3 turns lock to lock, and it's okay. It does the job, but I'd rather have 2.5 turns lock to lock like on a Fox body. So maybe that will be an upgrade in the future. As far as brakes are concerned, I did 4-wheel disc brakes. The fronts are Scarebird brake kit. and with GM calipers. And then the backs are actually the backs are out of a 94 to 98 Mustang GT. And if you're wondering if they bolt right up, they do if you have an 8.8, which I do. So my rear end is actually an 8.8 inch rear out of a Fox body that had the spring perches welded onto. All right, that does it for all the list of mods. If you have any questions, leave it in the comments. I'll be more than happy to answer any questions you may have about the car in its current state. Let's go look at some parts. So I'm sure by now you're wondering what I'm planning on doing. Well, it's going to be quite the project. For starters, we're going to change the cylinder heads. These are Liberty Performance 180cc cylinder heads. These aren't spectacular heads, but they're going to get the job done. I mean, not the greatest, but with the CC cylinder volume and the 180 ports, I mean, it's going to be a decent head. I did change the valve springs on this because these actually, right there, these valve springs when I got the heads were broken. So I replaced them with Anderson Motorsports valve spring kit. And thanks to my buddy Nate who hooked me up with those. I put new valve seals on them. And then Katie and I, my apprentice Katie, you'll see her on the channel very soon. She helped me lap the valves and get some good seats on them because they were pretty nasty. So, and the sad part about it is that these cylinder heads have less than 5,000 miles on them. The motor these came out of it's a 408 stroker, and unfortunately the previous builder didn't do that great of a job with them. So I freshened them up, and now they're good to go. I got I got all Felpro head gaskets, intake gaskets. These are my favorite exhaust gaskets, the 1415s. Can't go wrong with them. New head bolts. And then fuel injection. Yes, we're going fuel injected, and not just the TBI fuel injection. We're actually doing a multi-port EFI setup. And this intake is the GT40 tubular intake, is well known. This is a Lightning unit. It's not the Motorsport unit. I do plan on, it's not going to say red. I am going to get this and the lower intake, which I have over here as well. You can see that as well. I'm going to get these powder coated, stripped down and powder coated, and I'm going to match the reason why I like this is it does match the fins on the current valve covers. I want to keep those, kind of match it together, do a wrinkle black to match the valve covers. So it's all going to blend together. Moving on to fuel system and EFI. So this is the 550937F Holley Terminator X fuel management system. This is designed for Fox body, but it works. It's going to work really well with our setup because we're doing basically Fox body stuff. I mean, this is why I'm doing this combination, is because I'm just so familiar with these. And injectors, now this is going to be a problem because I have 42-pound injectors here. These are not Ford Performance. These are actually just stock Ford OEM injectors out of a Lightning, I believe. They're going to work okay, but I think I'm going to run out of fuel at the top end. So I may end up changing these out for 47 pounds or something bigger, maybe 60s. We'll see. This is the returnless fuel rails for a Fox body EFI. Actually, these came out of a Ford Explorer, if I recall correctly, like later Explorers, like the 99 to 2001s. So I don't know what this does. To be honest with you, it's not really a regulator because there's no return for it, but this should work just fine because what I'm gonna do is use this fuel filter, which is a Corvette fuel filter, C6 Corvette, if I recall correctly, and this is already regulated to 58 psi. And then the Phytech drop-in fuel pump module. This thing is wicked. I actually really like this thing because it's universal. So what this is this is a hat that you cut an opening, a 2-inch opening, and then drill the holes, obviously, to mounting it. and you measure your depth of your fuel tank, and then you drop this in, and it comes with a really long sock. And I believe this is kind of like the hydromat where it can absorb wherever, so you don't get cavitation. And it comes with a 440 liter per hour fuel pump. I couldn't beat it for $249, I believe I paid for it at the time. So yeah, that's the fuel system. That's the regulator, fuel rails, fuel injectors, EFI system. And then up here, I actually have, I forgot to mention this. This will be my trans controller. It's a quick 2. I could have bought the Terminator X Max that has the 4R70 control, but I had already bought this previously before I bought this. And at the time, I was actually thinking about either using a stock computer, or I had a Big Stuff 3 EFI system that I was considering using. But then I fell back to this because I'm just so familiar with it and it works so well. So, moving on. So the last piece of the puzzle is this guy. What is this? Is this a turbo? It's a Pro Charger. No, it's not. It's not a Pro Charger. This is a centrifugal supercharger. Centrifugal. This is for boost. I'm going to be making some boost with this thing. And so my horsepower goal is 450-ish, maybe 500 if I'm pushing it. But this is a solid combination. Heads, cam, intake, and a supercharger will, on a Fox body, properly done, will net you 450 to 500. Depends if it's an automatic or manual. 500 shouldn't be a problem. However, you can't do it with this pulley. Definitely not. I'm going to be upgrading the pulley to a smaller, probably a 295 pulley, 8 rib setup. This is the typical thing to do. This is currently a 6 rib. It's set up for 6 pounds of boost, but I'm going to go bigger than that. We're going to make some boost with this thing and try to split the block. That's our goal, right? Not really, but 450 to 500 on a Fox body is going to be plenty safe. You'll never break it. You know, there's guys going to argue about this and what the horsepower limit is on a stock block. And it's debatable. But the fact of the matter is 500 is a safe number if it's properly tuned and properly done. And you keep the RPMs below 6,000 RPM. I'm going to stand by this. Mike Post has told me this for years and years and years. And every single combination that I've built this way has survived. So as long as you know what you're doing, and again, keep the RPMs to 6 grand or less, which is fine because most of these setups peak right at 6,000 and they start to nose over by then. So realistically, you'll never need to go over 6,000 RPMs anyway. So there you have it. That's the goal for this car. So that's it. That's all I needed to show you. I know the video's starting to get long and you're probably bored to death. Ugh. But anyway, I hope you learned some stuff. And this is my project. I'm going to have other projects on this channel as well, not just this car. I do have another 65 Mustang I'm going to be doing some stuff too. Very similar setup to mine. And you'll see that very soon. We're working on details on that thing right now as of we speak. I have some car show stuff that I recorded that I might be including just as filler material. Probably boring, but whatever. I do want to do some other videos, but if there's anything you want to know, leave in the comments what you'd like to hear. And if there's any questions you have about my car and my build and any of the questions, if you got any questions at all, leave it in the comments and give me a thumbs up. Share this channel because I really, really want to share my information with all of you. Till then, goodbye.